Alright, so M3GAN 2.0's been out in theaters for a weekend now. Hopefully you've seen it, because now it's time to talk some spoilers about this movie, so that is a spoiler warning. You know how this goes by now. If you have not yet seen this movie and you're planning on it, best to not watch this video, because I will be talking about what happens in this movie in detail. If you have seen this movie or you don't care, then you're good to stick around. Alright, disclaimer is done, let's dive in. So this spoiler talk is going to begin how a couple other of my spoiler talks have, which is me mentioning the fact that a couple of scenes that have been shown in the trailers ended up not being in this movie. Like the scene in the first official trailer where it showed the guy in the M3GAN cosplay, and the scene in the beginning of the last trailer where it showed M3GAN in the box being uncovered and attacking that guy. I understand these days this happens a lot. Scenes in trailers end up on the cutting room floor by the time the movie comes out, but I don't know, in this case it kind of bothered me a little bit more. Probably because I was kind of looking forward to that scene with the guy in the costume, because I thought that was pretty funny. Oh well. So we start off after our prologue with Amelia, learning what Gemma and Katie have been up to in the last 2 years. So after the events of M3GAN, Gemma was arrested, which, yeah, that does make sense. In a way, she is responsible for what M3GAN did. I mean, she did invent her after all. But Gemma's been speaking out against the use of AI and most technology for kids. She's giving a speech and she's like, you wouldn't give a kid cocaine, why would you give them a smartphone? I was like, okay, so she's kind of overcorrecting in a way. She's just missing that medium point, the Goldilocks zone. But it's at this presentation where she meets this guy, Christian Bradley. He runs a foundation against AI, and so they kind of become a pair, kind of like a will they, won't they, I guess. And he seemed pretty trustworthy enough at first anyway. I wasn't seeing a whole lot of red flags. Meanwhile, Katie, well, she knows Aikido now. Pretty sweet scene, I will say, where she gets her would-be bully. Yeah, teach her not to mess. Using Steven Seagal as a role model. I can respect that, kind of. So, since the events of M3GAN, Gemma and her team have been working on new technology, mainly this exoskeleton Model 1, should I call it Emmy? Which pretty much heart-shaped herbs people up. It grants enhanced strength, speed, agility, the works. And of course, seeing it in the beginning of the movie, Chekhov's gun, you know it's gonna be used later on. So I'll get to that. One of the biggest surprises of this movie is the fact that Jermaine Clement is in it. Yeah, I didn't know that before going into it. He wasn't in any of the trailers. It was a well-kept secret from me. And his character is Alton Appleton. He's a CEO billionaire who's also working on technology, but more in the cybernetic enhancement type. He's the one working on the neural implants. Which, funny enough, Babe told me, I guess those are a real thing. Yeah, I guess Elon Musk is actually working on those and it's not going so well and bleh, shitty shit. But anyway, the fun in this movie begins when the FBI invades Gemma's new house, because this is where M3GAN reveals herself. Yeah, it turns out she's been hiding for the past 2 years, sitting in silence. We all knew that, because at the very end of the first movie, it showed that she did stick around when the LC model turned on again and turned its head. So you're like, oh yeah, M3GAN backed herself up onto the internet or something, like Ultron style. I'm glad this movie actually kept that continuity, because you know it could have been really easy for them to be like, nah, M3GAN is just completely gone, now we have to rebuild her. But no, they didn't retcon that, and I do want to give props to that. So yeah, M3GAN's been hiding out in this house for the past 2 years, just watching Gemma and Katie live their lives. Which, side note, I did think it was pretty funny how she used the house to beat up those FBI guys. It reminded me of the concept of the movie Smart House. I never saw it, but that's what I imagined it was like. Or Encanto or something, like a magic house that comes alive. That was cool, it was creative. And so at first M3GAN gets her Moxie body, like a little Elsie type thing, except this time it has a face. It's hilarious too, she wakes up and she's like, what the fuck is this? Great use of the PG-13 F-bomb right there too. And Gemma's like, show me you can be trusted and maybe we'll give you an upgrade. Alright then. Moving on, we get to the big party for Appleton's company, which is great. I liked his speech on the stage, where he's like, you may think I'm working towards scientific advancement, but the much simpler truth is, I just want to dance. I liked that. That was cool. Then he hits on Amelia, who kills him. Rest in peace, guy. Not so shiny anymore. M3GAN does end up helping out Gemma and Cole, who's also there, by luring Amelia outside. So when she leaves, I love this part where M3GAN pulls up with a concept car. Looks like a concept car anyway. And we got ourselves a pretty fucking high speed chase, which was also funny. Gemma's like, can't you slow down? And M3GAN's like, no, actually I can't, because we're gonna lose her. It's like M3GAN has a concept of everything on the planet except the law, I guess. Unless she does, but she figures that the law won't persecute a robot. I don't know. One of my favorite things this movie did was reveal the fact that M3GAN had a secret lair underneath their house. It's one of my favorite things about this movie because I love the concept of M3GAN and the crew having a base of operations. You know, that can be used in future installments, like MI6 for James Bond or something. However, the flip side of this is the fact that there are a few plot holes here, because it makes no sense really how this could have happened. What, you mean to tell me that M3GAN built this underground base without Gemma and Katie hearing some sort of underground construction underneath their house? I'm sure she was working away with jackhammers and a hard hat and shit. Unless maybe it was already there, then fine. In which case she says later on that she got food, water, clothes. How'd she get all that? Credit card fraud aside, how did she physically get it? How'd she have it delivered or something? Because I'm sure she didn't go out and get the shit. She couldn't have. She didn't have a good physical body. So what? How'd she have that stuff delivered under the noses of Katie and Gemma? Point is, huge plot hole. That's a ding for the movie, but again, I do love the concept of a base of operations. Home base, as it were, you know? 221B Baker Street in Sherlock. But really, we find out the reason M3GAN has this place is because she ran a simulation of Amelia's conflict in her head and came to the conclusion that there is no future in which humans come out on top. M3GAN says, no, Amelia is gonna win this, so we should 10 Cloverfield Lane ourselves in here, and we can live out the rest of our lives in peace. No one knows this place exists, so we'll be free. Of course, M3GAN does come around and agreed to help fight Amelia, but I just thought this was interesting. You know what was awesome? That endoskeleton that M3GAN has that's talking to Katie? Yeah, it turns out she was working on a body, but it wasn't complete yet. So this big animatronic puppet, it's a real thing too, it's not CG, and it looked awesome. Hell of a lot better than Cheese from Mac and Cheese and Friends. That's for damn sure. And so M3GAN, the Model 3 generative android, is rebuilt. She gets her brand new, slightly taller body and she is ready to get to work and kick ass. And she reveals that she is not the first killer robot. I guess back in 1984, there was another company that was building an AI and they succeeded. They made one that looks an awful lot like Rob from Super Smash Bros. I know he's not originally from Smash Bros. He was a real thing. Point is, this original AI was hidden away on a disc and Amelia's goal is to track it down because it's gonna help her take over the world. Yeah, like I said, generic and kind of boring villain. More on that later too, though. We come to this AI convention, which I gotta give huge props to this. I love this. This convention that's called Embrace AI, breaking the fourth wall into the real world for a second. The fact that AI has unfortunately taken over a lot of the arts, or at least has a huge influence now, gives way to the fact that a lot of people, including myself, are gonna be against it. So I love the fact that when we see this convention in the movie, there are protesters against it. They got the picket signs and everything. I was like, I would be there. Not in the convention, mind you, but outside with a sign. Cause fuck that shit. If it's not made by humans, I don't want it. But anyway, we come to the scene where M3GAN has her little dance break. I love the build up to it though, where Gemma's like, M3GAN, get down. M3GAN's like, I don't know what to do. And Katie's like, well, you heard Gemma. Get down. I was like, that's perfect. Cause it is absolutely campy. There's no way around that, but this movie does lean into its campiness in that aspect anyway. And besides, dancing is one of the most famous things M3GAN is known for. I'm pretty sure every M3GAN movie is gonna have a dance scene. So let's live it up here at the convention. But unfortunately, the scene ends with Amelia kidnapping Katie, which does lead to Katie having a chunk of time off screen, which is why I said in my review that Katie doesn't seem as prominent to the story here as she was in the first movie, because there is a chunk of it where she's gone because she's been kidnapped. So that's why. But it doesn't matter that much because then we get to this conversation between M3GAN and Gemma. This was one of the funniest scenes in the movie. Ended up that way anyway. Because actually for most of it, it's pretty emotional. They're talking about how Gemma actually does care about Katie. And M3GAN's like, yeah, I watched you for 2 years. You're there for her a lot and you care. That's called being a mom. And I was like, oh, that's nice. But of course, M3GAN being M3GAN, she then has to take it over the top and give us a few bars. M3GAN sings again. She's singing, what is it called? This Woman's Work by Kate Bush. I didn't know the song beforehand, but this scene made me laugh so hard. It was hilarious. Because unlike in the first movie where she's singing Titanium to Katie, or that original song Tell Me Your Dreams, where the scene is actually played up for emotion, in this case it is more played up for the comedy, and it's great because Gemma's like, are you shitting me right now? Please don't get to the chorus. Meanwhile, M3GAN's just like, ah! She's just going off, and eventually Gemma's like, alright, shut up. That was awesome! I died laughing. I think to me that was the funniest scene in this movie. Followed by our plot twist, Christian Bradley is actually the bad guy. Who'd have thought? Alright, granted, I actually didn't see it coming. Babe did, though. Makes sense, because, again, he's smarter than me. Yeah, it turns out Christian is the one behind Amelia and his whole company. Turns out Amelia is actually not an AI at all. She's just a vessel. She's a puppet. She's being controlled by Christian and his crew. Which he then brings up Kurt from the first movie. I'm actually super glad that he was touched on, because that was a loose end that the first movie left open. When Kurt got on the computer and took those files and sent them somewhere, I at least was like, what was that all about? Christian reveals here, yeah, he was sending those files to him. I guess Kurt was like a spy for him or something, I don't know. Before he was stabbed and killed by M3GAN in the elevator with his boss, Ronnie Chang from the Old Spice commercials. So big props to the fact that that was touched on here. Because otherwise, I'll be honest, I probably would have have forgotten about it. So good on them. And Christian goes on to try to convince Gemma to join his cause, and of course she refuses. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna take this neural implant from Appleton's company, Jermaine Clement, and put it in your brain so it'll enslave you or something. And I was like, oh shit. Cause yeah, Gemma actually does get the neural implant. They shouldn't have shown that in the last trailer. But luckily, Amelia kills Christian anyway, so he's dead. Rest in not peace. So Gemma doesn't have to worry about being enslaved, but rather working alongside M3GAN in her brain, which is really cool. Like now M3GAN can take over her body like the movie Upgrade or something, so she can take on all those goons. Pretty cool action scene, although you can tell because her hair's down and covering her face for most of it that it's obviously a stunt double doing it, which of course it was gonna be, but don't make it so obvious. Show her face for a little bit anyway to break that illusion. Just saying. Oh, and I should mention that she's got the exoskeleton on from the beginning of the movie, because like I said, Chekhov's gun, so she throws down. Eventually, Amelia No Heart ends up getting her own consciousness anyway, so naturally she goes full Ultron. I got no strings on me. She's got the super AI disc and now she's gonna use it. Her eyes light up, lightning's going everywhere. She's going Mega Thor from Ragnarok or some shit. Been watching a lot of Marvel lately. Again, seeing Amelia like this, I was like, yeah, it's generic. I've seen a lot of villains do this exact same thing. Like Ronan in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's got the Power Stone. He's like, Ishanda, yeah! But then M3GAN shows up and the two of them have a fight. And it's the final throwdown of the movie and it's kick-ass and awesome and entertaining to watch. The camera's moving all over the place. It's shaky, it's jarring, it's cool, it's fun. It's summer blockbuster-ness, which is a word now because I say so. The fight ends with M3GAN deciding to use that EMP pulse in her wrist to wipe everything out, including Amelia and herself. Not because she has to, but because it's right. Echoing the conversation she had with Katie earlier on, I was like, the poetry, that's nice. Good writing there. And so that's that. Amelia is defeated and deleted, and therefore we have victory! Nice. But then, of course, we learn in this movie's epilogue, which I'm glad this movie has an epilogue, unlike the first movie. The first movie, after the climactic fight, has about 30 seconds of cooldown, then it cuts to black and we got our credits. This movie, we get a couple of scenes, which is better. And basically, we just learn what we need to learn, which is the fact that, of course, M3GAN backed herself up again. So yeah, she's okay, she's fine. I loved it too when Gemma's on her computer on the Word document and the clip guy comes up, which I've always loved that little clip guy in real life. Clippy, yeah. Also a good way to mirror what Christian was talking about, paper clips. That's some good irony right there. But then the little clip guy is like, is this better? Then he turns into M3GAN. Little cartoon M3GAN on her laptop screen. I was like, she's adorable. And she's like, what? You didn't think I would back myself up? And then the movie ends. I was like, yeah, all right, M3GAN's back, and this time Gemma and Katie know about it. So now they can all hang out together. Although that does bring up a question in my brain. If M3GAN was smart enough to back herself up, wouldn't you think Amelia would be too? Yeah, I think that's a valid question, so she could possibly come back. Maybe. That being said, I kind of hope she doesn't though, cause like I said, I thought she was kind of a boring villain. Here's hoping if a third M3GAN movie is made, the antagonist is more interesting. Until then, though, we are living happily. In conclusion, M3GAN 2.0, like I said, I really enjoy it, and its ultimate message about AI. Because it's not necessarily against it, but rather it says that it can help us, just if we're nice to it and decide to work with it rather than try to control it. Which I personally don't know if I'm at that point yet, as far as agreement goes. I'm still very much against it, or at least it's current influence in the arts. But the message of working with it, I can get behind it once I see proof that it does in fact work. If I see that enough times, then I'll definitely get behind it. Until then though, this is where I'm gonna stand on it. So that'll be my question for you. What is your stance on AI in the arts or anywhere else? Science, technology, medicine, politics? Yeah, I know this question isn't really a movie related question, but I think it's still relevant enough. So whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!